Viewers, welcome to the third episode of People Are Life Hackers. Thank you for your love and motivation on our journey. If you want to watch previous episodes, please go through the description. Today we are going to show our gratitude towards a living Nobel laureate who brought a great revolution throughout the globe. Kailash Satyarthi, born the 11th of January 1954, is an Indian social reformer who campaigned against child labor in India and advocated the universal right to education. In 2014, he was the co-recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, along with Malala Yousafzai, for their struggle against the suppression of children and young people and for the right of all children to education. He is the founder of multiple social activist organizations, including Bachpan Bachao Andolan, Global March Against Child Labor, Global Campaign for Education and Kailash Satyarthi Children's Foundation. Kailash Satyarthi and his team at Bachpan Bachao Andolan have liberated more than 81,000 children in India from child labor, slavery and trafficking. In 1998, Satyarthi conceived and led the Global March Against Child Labor, an 80,000 km-long march across 103 countries to put forth a global demand against worst forms of child labor. This became one of the largest social movements ever on behalf of exploited children. The demands of the marchers, which included children and youth, particularly the survivors of trafficking for forced labor, exploitation, sexual abuse, illegal organ transplants, armed conflict, etc., were reflected in the draft of the ILO Convention 192 on the worst forms of child labor. The following year, the convention was unanimously adopted at the ILO conference in Geneva. He has served on the board and committee of several international organizations including the Center for Victims of Torture USA, the International Labor Rights Fund USA, and the COCO Initiative. Satyarthi was among Fortune magazine's World's Greatest Leaders in 2015 and featured in LinkedIn's Power Profiles list in 2017 and 2018. Satyarthi led a nationwide march, Bharat Yatra, in India covering 19,000 kilometers in 35 days, to demand for legislation against child rape, child sexual abuse and trafficking. Satyarthi was born in Vidisha, a small town in the Indian state of Madhya Pradesh, into a middle-class Hindu family. He is the youngest among 4 brothers and a sister. His father was a retired police head constable and his mother was an uneducated housewife with high morals. As per Satyarthi, this exceptionally idealistic and helpful nature of his mother had a big impact on him. He was raised in a locality where Hindus and Muslims lived with each other. As a 4-year-old toddler, he learned to read Urdu from the Maulvi at the neighboring mosque and learned Hindi and English in school. Satyarthi was significantly affected by the lack of school access for all children and his experiences with poverty in his youth. He made efforts when young to try to change these inequalities due to the circumstances of their birth. Satyarthi completed his education in Vidisha. He attended Government Boys Higher Secondary School in Vidisha, and completed an undergraduate degree in electrical engineering at Samrat Ashok Technological Institute in Vidisha, then affiliated to the University of Bhopal, now Barkatullah University, and a postgraduate degree in high voltage engineering. Satyarthi joined his college as a lecturer for a few years. In 1980, Satyarthi gave up his career as an electrical engineer and then founded the Bachpan Bachao Andolan Save Childhood movement. He conceived and led the Global March Against Child Labor and its international advocacy body, the International Center on Child Labor and Education (ICCLE), which are worldwide coalitions of NGOs, teachers and trades unionists. He has served as the president of the Global Campaign for Education from its inception in 1999 to 2011. Satyarthi is one of its 4 founders alongside ActionAid, Oxfam and Education International. In 1998, Satyarthi conceived and led the Global March Against Child Labor, traversing across 103 countries covering 80,000 kilometers to demand an international law on worst forms of child labor. The march eventually led to the adoption of ILO Convention No. 182 on the worst forms of child labor. He established Good Weave International, formerly known as Rugmark, as the first voluntary labeling, monitoring and certification system of rugs manufactured without the use of child labor in South Asia. In the late 1980s and early 1990s he focused its campaigns on raising consumer awareness on issues relating to the accountability of global corporations regarding socially responsible consumerism, trade and supply chains. Satyarthi has highlighted child labor as a human rights issue as well as a welfare matter and charitable cause. He has argued that it perpetuates poverty, unemployment, illiteracy, population growth, and other social problems. His claims have been supported by several studies. He has had a role in linking the movement against child labor with efforts for achieving education for all. Satyarthi has been a member of a UNESCO body and has been on the board of the Fast Track Initiative, now known as the Global Partnership for Education. Satyarthi had served on the board and committee of several international organizations including the Center for Victims of Torture USA, the International Labor Rights Fund USA, and the International Cocoa Foundation. He brought child labor and slavery into the post-2015 development agenda for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Satyarthi was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2014 for the struggle against the suppression of children and young people and for the right of all children to education. Satyarthi is the first natural-born Indian Nobel Peace Laureate. The Bharat Yatra was launched by Kailash Satyarthi Children's Foundation to spread awareness about child trafficking and sexual abuse. The campaign launched in Kanyakumari on the 11th of September 2017 and marched through 7 routes covering 22 Indian states and union territories and over 12,000 kilometers. The campaign was aimed at starting a social dialogue about child sexual abuse and child trafficking, to taboo issues in India, to protect children vulnerable within their homes, communities, schools. The campaign collaborated with 5,000 civil society organizations, 60 Indian faith leaders, 500 Indian political leaders, 600 local, state and national bodies of the Indian government, 300 members of the Indian judiciary, and 25,000 educational institutions across India. More than 1,200,000 marched for 35 days and led to the Criminal Law Amendment Act 2018 with a strict deterrent against child rape. The Yatra resulted in the Anti-Human Trafficking Bill being passed by the 16th Lok Sabha. Inspirational books like Azad Bachpan Ki Aur, Will for Children, Because Words Matter, Every Child Matters and Badlav Ki Bol by Kailash Satyarthi will always motivate us to be and become for society. We, people are life hackers, always grateful to his contribution towards society. Finally, thank you very much for watching the episode and motivate us to work on and present some real life hackers in front of you. Stay tuned by liking, sharing and subscribing People Are Life Hackers to get more inspirational stories.